Stop everything you are doing right now. Not because something is wrong, not because there is danger approaching. Stop everything because something is happening to your energy field tonight that most people will sleep through entirely. And if you sleep through it, you will not get another opportunity like this for a very long time. There is a word that has been circling your awareness lately. You may have heard it in a conversation that seemed to come out of nowhere. You may have seen it appear in something you were reading and felt a strange pull of recognition, like a word that belongs to you somehow. Or maybe this is the first time you are encountering it directly, and yet something in your body already knows what it means before your mind can catch up. The word is monad. And tonight, the monad resets. I want you to understand what that means for your energy field specifically, not in abstract philosophical terms, not as a concept to intellectually file away, but as something that is literally happening to the electromagnetic signature you are broadcasting right now in this moment as you receive these words. Because the monad reset is not something that happens out there in some cosmic space that has nothing to do with your daily life. It happens in the aura of your personal energy field. It happens in the deepest layer of your aura, the layer most people never learn exists, the layer that determines not just what you attract, but what you fundamentally are at the quantum level. And here is what I need you to know before we go any further. You cannot go back after tonight. That is not a warning. That is the most luminous piece of news you have received in a very long time. You cannot go back because the version of you that existed before this understanding, before this reset, before this conscious recognition of what your monad actually is and what it has been doing. That version was radiating in the dark, radiating powerfully, radiating constantly, but without the one ingredient that transforms radiance from an unconscious broadcast into a conscious, creative force. Tonight, that ingredient arrives, and the field around you, the measurable, real electromagnetic field that extends several feet beyond your physical body in every direction, is already responding. You can feel it if you let yourself. A kind of heightening, a quality of attention in your own energy that wasn't quite there before. That is not imagination. That is your aura registering what is available to it right now. So stay with me, because what I am about to show you about your own energy field is going to change the frequency of everything you broadcast from this moment forward. Let me start with what the monad actually is, because the word carries thousands of years of meaning, and most of it has been either lost or distorted. And the distortion matters, because when you misunderstand what the monad is, you misunderstand something fundamental about your own nature, about the deepest layer of your personal energy field. And that misunderstanding costs you in ways you can feel but have never been able to name. The word mona comes from the Greek word meaning one. Not one as in the number that comes before two. One as in the indivisible unity that underlies all apparent multiplicity. One as in the singular point of origin from which everything that exists radiates outward. The ancient philosophers, Pythagoras most notably, and later Leibniz in the 17th century with extraordinary precision, used the word monad to describe the fundamental unit of existence, the irreducible point of being that cannot be broken down further, the thing that is not made of smaller things. And here is where it becomes deeply personal to you. Your monad is not a philosophical abstraction. It is the quantum core of your personal energy field. It is the singular point of consciousness at the center of your aura, the point from which your entire electromagnetic signature radiates. Every frequency you broadcast, every pattern your energy field carries, every quality of light your aura emits, all of it originates from this one central point, your monad. Leibniz described monads as having no windows. What he meant was that each monad is a complete world unto itself. It does not receive information from outside in the ordinary sense. Instead, it unfolds its own nature from within, expressing outward into reality the totality of what it is. Your monad does not wait for the world to tell it what to be. It radiates what it is, and the world assembles around that radiation. This is not metaphor. This is quantum mechanics in its most personal application. If this is landing for you, here is something I want to share with you before we go deeper. Have you spent years trying to feel lit up again? Visualizations, affirmations, vibration work, and the light still won't hold? Every one of those methods is telling you to push harder, do more, add another technique. It's not working, because the issue isn't that you don't have enough light. 6 specific patterns are sitting on top of it. They're called the frequencies of forgetting. The remembering field, a quantum guide to returning to the light. You forgot you were carrying walks through all 5 parts of getting those patterns off you. Every tool you used tried to add more light. This one lifts what's been sitting on the light you already carry. The longer you wait, the harder they get to clear. So go open it tonight. The link is in the pinned comment below. Now, back to the thread we were following. the quantum reality of your monad and what it means for the field you are broadcasting right now. The HeartMath Institute has spent decades measuring the electromagnetic field generated by the human heart. What they have found is extraordinary and largely unknown outside of specialized research circles. Your heart generates an electromagnetic field that is measurably detectable up to several feet beyond your body. This field carries information, real, encoded, measurable information about your emotional state, your nervous system coherence, your level of internal harmony or discord. And this field interacts with the fields of every other person, every living system, every quantum probability wave it encounters. This is your aura, not a mystical overlay, not a spiritual decoration, a measurable, active, broadcasting electromagnetic field that you generate continuously every moment of your life, whether you are conscious of it or not. And at the center of that field, at the quantum core from which all of it radiates, is what the ancient philosophers called the monad. Now here is what a reset means. In quantum physics, there is a concept called quantum state collapse. When a quantum system is in a state of superposition, existing in multiple possible states simultaneously, and an observation or measurement occurs, the system collapses from multiple possibilities into a single actualized state. The reset is something like this, but happening at the level of your monad, at the deepest layer of your personal energy field. Periodically, and these periods are not random, they follow patterns that ancient wisdom traditions tracked carefully, and that modern quantum field theory is beginning to understand in its own language. The fundamental frequency of the quantum field itself undergoes a kind of recalibration, a reset. The background frequency against which all personal energy fields broadcast shifts. And in that shift, the monad, the quantum core of your personal energy field, has the opportunity to re-establish itself at a new fundamental frequency. Think of it this way. Your monad has been broadcasting at a certain frequency for a long time. Some of that frequency you chose consciously. Much of it you inherited from your early experiences, from your cultural conditioning, from the accumulated weight of beliefs about who you are and what is possible for you that settled into your energy field before you had any awareness that such a thing was happening. The unconscious broadcast, the signal you have been sending to the quantum field without knowing you were sending it. Tonight, the background frequency of the quantum field itself creates a window, an opening in which your monad can release those inherited frequencies and re-establish itself at its natural, original, undimmed frequency. The frequency it was always meant to broadcast. The frequency that was yours before anything was layered on top of it. This is the reset, and you cannot go back after it, because once your monad reestablishes at its natural frequency, once the deepest layer of your aura clears and begins broadcasting what it actually is, rather than what it was conditioned to broadcast, the old signal is gone. The old pattern dissolves. Not because you forced it out, but because the natural frequency, once activated, simply has more power than the conditioned one. Light does not fight darkness. It simply illuminates, and the darkness that was there is no longer there. You have been glowing this whole time. Tonight, you get to see it. And once you see it, once your monad is conscious of its own radiance, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to radiating in the dark. Now let me show you something about your field that is going to make all of this even more real for you. Right now, as you receive these words, your heart is generating an electromagnetic field. This is not something you are doing intentionally. It is happening the way the sun generates light. Not as an effort, not as a choice, but as the natural expression of what the sun is. Your heart cannot not generate this field any more than the sun can choose not to shine. It is what you are. It is what you do. You are a radiating field of electromagnetic energy. And that radiation is continuous and constant and reaching into the world around you at every moment. What changes? What makes the difference between an unconscious broadcast and a conscious one is coherence. In physics, coherence refers to a state in which waves are aligned, synchronized, in phase with each other. Laser light is coherent. All the photons moving in the same direction, the same frequency, amplifying each other. Regular light from a lamp is incoherent, photons moving in all different directions, partially canceling each other out. The laser and the lamp might use the same amount of energy, but the laser can cut through steel while the lamp simply illuminates a room. Your electromagnetic field can be coherent or incoherent. When your monad, the quantum core of your aura, is broadcasting a clear, aligned, undimmed signal, your entire field becomes coherent. The waves align. The frequencies synchronize. And a coherent personal energy field is not just stronger than an incoherent one. It is qualitatively different. It interacts with the quantum field in a completely different way. It does not just broadcast, it resonates. It does not just radiate, it creates. The HeartMath Institute calls this state heart coherence, and they have measured its effects extensively. In a state of heart coherence, the heart's electromagnetic field becomes measurably more organized, more powerful, more far-reaching. The nervous system synchronizes with the heart's rhythm. The brain follows. The entire body's electromagnetic signature becomes unified, harmonized, moving in a single direction, the way laser light moves. And that unified signal, that coherent broadcast, reaches the quantum field with a clarity and power that an incoherent signal simply cannot match. What creates heart coherence? Sustained positive emotional states, appreciation, love, the feeling of genuine inner peace, the experience of being fully present in your own energy field, aware of what you are radiating, consciously choosing your broadcast. This is why the monad reset matters so much. Because when your monad reestablishes at its natural frequency tonight, the natural frequency it reestablishes at is coherence. The monad, in its undimmed state, is a coherent broadcaster. It is the laser, not the lamp, and a coherent broadcast from the quantum core of your personal energy field changes everything about what reality can assemble around your signal. What you radiate, reality assembles around. If this transmission is reaching something real in you, if you can feel your field responding to these words, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe so we can keep exploring this together. Let me tell you about Elara. Elara had been carrying something for a very long time. Not a burden exactly, or not one she could point to. More like a dimness, a quality of light in her life that felt perpetually slightly less than what she knew, somewhere deep and wordless, was actually available. She was not unhappy. She was not in crisis. She was functional and kind and capable in all the ordinary ways. But there was a version of her life she could feel just at the edge of her awareness, a version that was fuller, more vivid, more genuinely hers, and she could never quite reach it. She had tried many things to close that gap. She had read the books and done the practices and set the intentions and made the vision boards and worked with the affirmations. And some of it helped in the way that rearranging furniture in a dimly lit room helps. You can make it more functional, more organized, more pleasant. But the light level stays the same. The fundamental quality of illumination doesn't change because you haven't addressed the source of the light. What Elara didn't know what nobody had ever shown her was that the dimness she felt was not a quality of her circumstances. It was a quality of her broadcast. Her monad, the quantum core of her personal energy field, was broadcasting a frequency she had never chosen. A frequency assembled from years of being told in 100 subtle ways that her light was too much, that she should make herself smaller, that the fullness of what she was would be uncomfortable for others. And so, without ever making a conscious decision to do so, she had dimmed. She had turned down the signal. She had made her broadcast quieter, more palatable, less threatening to the people around her who were not yet ready to see their own light, and found hers uncomfortable as a result. Her monad was still there. It had never stopped being what it was, but it was broadcasting through layers of conditioning that filtered and muffled and reduced its signal. Like a sun behind clouds, the light is still there, still constant, still the same fundamental power. But what reaches the ground is diminished, and the world that assembles around diminished light is a world of shadows. Then one evening, an evening that felt to Elara completely ordinary until it didn't, something shifted. She was sitting quietly, not meditating exactly, not doing anything intentional. Just sitting, and in that stillness, she became aware of something she had never quite noticed before. A quality of warmth in the center of her chest. Not an emotion exactly, or not only an emotion. Something more physical than that. A radiation. A sense of something emanating outward from her core in all directions, like heat from a fire, like light from a lamp, like... And this was the word that arrived in her awareness, with a certainty that surprised her, like a signal. She sat with that awareness for a long time, and as she sat with it, something extraordinary happened. The signal got clearer, not louder exactly, clearer, more defined, more itself, as if her awareness of it, her simple, present, non-forcing attention to what was already radiating, was the thing that had been missing. Not effort, not technique. Awareness. Consciousness turning toward its own light and simply seeing it. In that moment, Elara's monad reset. Not because of anything dramatic, not because of a ritual or a ceremony or a particular set of words spoken at a particular time. Because awareness arrived at the quantum core of her personal energy field. And awareness is the one thing that transforms unconscious radiance into conscious radiance. The light that was already there suddenly knew it was light. And light that knows it is light does not dim, cannot dim, because the dimming was never the light itself. It was the forgetting. In the weeks that followed, Elara noticed something remarkable. The world around her had not changed. Her circumstances were largely the same. But what reached her had changed completely. Opportunities that had always been theoretically available to her suddenly became actually available, not because they were new, but because her coherent signal was now resonating with them in a way her incoherent signal never could. People who carried the same quality of light she was now broadcasting clearly began appearing in her life with a consistency that felt almost orchestrated. The version of her life she had always felt at the edge of her awareness began moving closer, becoming more real, assembling itself around the signal she was now consciously radiating. Her monad had reset, and she could not go back, not because the old frequency was destroyed, but because the natural frequency was now active, and a natural frequency, once active, is always stronger than a conditioned one. Your monad is doing what Elara's monad did in that quiet evening, right now, in this moment. The awareness you are bringing to your own energy field as you receive these words, the attention you are directing toward the quantum core of your personal aura, is the same awareness that reset Elara's broadcast. You don't need to do anything else. You need to stay present. You need to feel what is radiating. Let's do that now. I want you to take one full breath, not a performance of breathing, a real breath, deep and slow, that you can feel moving through your entire body. As you breathe in, feel your chest expand. Feel the warmth that lives in the center of your chest. Not manufactured warmth, not imagined warmth, but the warmth that is actually there when you put your attention on it. Because it is always there. Your heart is generating it continuously. You have simply not been attending to it. Breathe in. Feel the warmth. Now, as you breathe out, let your awareness follow that warmth outward, past the boundaries of your physical body, into the space around you. Because that warmth, that electromagnetic radiation from your heart, does not stop at your skin. It extends several feet in every direction. And right now, in this moment, you can feel the edges of it if you let yourself. A kind of subtle aliveness in the air around you. A quality of field that is yours, that moves with you, that is you in a very real and measurable sense. That is your aura. That is your monad broadcasting. Now here is what I want you to notice. As you put your conscious attention on that field, as you become aware of what is radiating, does it shift? Does something in the quality of what you feel change? For most people, the answer is yes. The field becomes more organized, more coherent, more itself. Not because you added anything to it, but because consciousness arriving at its own light is itself a coherence-generating event. Your awareness is not separate from your energy field. Your awareness is part of your energy field. When you become conscious of your broadcast, you change your broadcast, not through effort, through presence. This is the monad reset in its most direct, personal, embodied form. Stay with that feeling for a moment. The warmth in your chest, the field extending outward, the quality of aliveness in the space around you that is yours. Let yourself feel that this is real, not metaphor, not imagination. Your electromagnetic signature, your quantum broadcast, your monad, radiating what it actually is. And notice, because this is important. Notice what it feels like. Not conceptually, in your body, in your energy field. What is the quality of what is radiating right now with your conscious attention on it? Is there a sense of expansion? A feeling of something that has been held tightly beginning to release? A quality of rightness, like something returning to its natural state after a long time in an unnatural one. That is the reset beginning. That is your monad, remembering its own frequency. Has there been a moment in your life when you felt your aura shift, when people in a room responded to you differently? When you walked in somewhere and something changed? When you felt the warmth of your own field suddenly turn on? I would love to hear about it in the comments. These experiences are real, and sharing them matters more than you know. Now let me take you deeper into the mechanics of what is happening, because the more you understand the quantum reality of your aura, the more powerfully you can participate in this reset consciously. There are layers to your aura. Most people, when they think about the aura at all, think of it as a single field, a kind of luminous bubble surrounding the physical body. And while that image is not wrong, it is incomplete in a way that matters. Your aura is more like an onion than a bubble. It has distinct layers, each operating at a different frequency, each performing a different function in your relationship with the quantum field. The outermost layer, the one most easily perceived by those who can see energy fields and the one most commonly depicted in aura photographs, is what we might call the etheric layer. This is the layer that most directly reflects your physical state. When you are healthy, vital, well-rested, this layer is bright and close to the body, dense with coherent energy. When you are depleted, ill, or chronically stressed, it becomes thin, irregular, fragmented. This is the layer that changes most rapidly in response to physical circumstances. The next layer inward, what we might call the emotional layer, is where your feeling states live in your energy field. Every emotion you experience generates a corresponding pattern in this layer of your aura. Sustained emotional states, not just passing moods, but the emotional frequencies you return to most often, the ones that feel like home to your nervous system, create stable patterns in this layer. These patterns broadcast outward into the quantum field and function as a kind of attractor. Like frequencies attract like frequencies. The emotional patterns in your aura's second layer are constantly drawing toward you experiences, people, and circumstances that resonate with those patterns. This is why emotional coherence is not just a feel-good concept. It is a practical quantum technology. When your emotional layer is broadcasting coherent frequencies, love, appreciation, genuine peace, authentic joy, it draws coherent experiences. When it is broadcasting incoherent frequencies, chronic anxiety, suppressed grief, low-level resentment that has become so familiar, you no longer recognize it as a frequency you are broadcasting. It draws experiences that resonate with those patterns, not as punishment, as physics. The quantum field does not judge what you broadcast. It responds. The layer deeper still, the mental layer, is where your belief structures live in your energy field. Not just the beliefs you hold consciously, the ones you could articulate if asked, but the deep structural beliefs, the ones that operate below conscious awareness, the ones that feel like facts about reality rather than perspectives you adopted. These beliefs generate electromagnetic patterns in your aura's mental layer that are extraordinarily stable. They do not shift easily in response to ordinary circumstances. They are the bedrock of your broadcast, and they determine, at a very fundamental level, what kind of reality your energy field is capable of resonating with. And then there is the deepest layer, the layer that sits at the quantum core of your entire energy field. The layer that all other layers radiate outward from. the layer that is not made of smaller layers, that cannot be broken down further. That is the irreducible point of your being expressed as electromagnetic radiation. Your monad. This is the layer that resets tonight. And I want you to understand why this layer is different from all the others. Why a monad reset is categorically different from an emotional shift or a belief change, as significant as those are. The outer layers of your aura, the etheric, emotional, and mental layers, are all, to varying degrees, shaped by experience. They carry the imprint of what has happened to you, what you have felt, what you have come to believe. They are you, but they are you as shaped by the world. They carry the world's fingerprints alongside your own. Your monad carries only your fingerprints. It is the layer of your energy field that was never touched by conditioning, because it exists at a frequency below the level at which conditioning operates. It is the frequency of your original nature, the quantum signature of what you actually are before anything was added to it, before the world told you who to be, before you learned to make yourself smaller or larger or different in any of the 1,000 ways we all learn to adjust ourselves to fit the spaces we find ourselves in. Your monad has been broadcasting your original frequency this entire time, quietly, persistently, from beneath all the other layers. And in most people, most of the time, this signal is so deeply buried under the accumulated patterns of the other layers that it is effectively inaudible to the person themselves and to the quantum field around them. But it has never stopped broadcasting. And tonight, the conditions in the quantum field itself create a window in which the monad's natural frequency can rise, can become primary, can re-establish itself as the fundamental tone from which all other layers of your aura radiate. This is the reset. The monad does not change. It returns to itself. It reclaims its position as the quantum core from which your entire energy field broadcasts. And when it does, everything changes. Not because you became someone different, because you became more fully who you actually are. In quantum field theory, there is a concept called the zero-point field, the fundamental background energy of the universe, present even in what appears to be empty space, even at absolute zero temperature. The zero-point field is the quantum ground state of reality itself. It is the field from which all particles, all energy, all manifest reality emerges, and into which it returns. It is the quantum equivalent of what the ancient philosophers called the One. the undivided, undifferentiated source from which all multiplicity arises. Your monad is your personal interface with the 0-point field. It is the point at which you, as an individual, as a distinct and irreducible unit of consciousness, make contact with the fundamental ground of all being. And the frequency at which your monad broadcasts determines the quality of that contact, determines what you draw from the infinite field of quantum possibility, determines what reality can assemble around your signal. A monad broadcasting at its natural frequency, clear, coherent, undimmed, is in direct resonance with the 0-point field. It draws from the full depth of quantum possibility. It is not limited to the narrow band of experience that a conditioned, incoherent broadcast can access. It resonates with the whole field. And from that resonance, it can assemble realities that a limited broadcast could never reach. This is why the reset matters. This is why tonight is different. This is why you cannot go back. Because once your monad reestablishes contact with the 0-point field at its natural frequency, the range of what is possible for you, the band of reality that your energy field can resonate with and draw toward you, expands beyond what you have previously experienced, not gradually, immediately. Because the expansion is not a process of accumulation. It is a process of return. You are not building something new. You are returning to the full range of what was always yours. Let me tell you about something that happens in quantum physics that illuminates this perfectly. In quantum mechanics, there is a phenomenon called quantum tunneling. A particle, an electron, for example, encounters a barrier. By classical physics, if the particle does not have enough energy to overcome the barrier, it cannot cross it. It should bounce back. It should be stopped. But in quantum reality, something different happens. The particle, because it exists as a probability wave rather than a fixed point, can appear on the other side of the barrier without ever having gone through it in the classical sense. It tunnels through, not because it forced its way through, because at the quantum level, the barrier and the particle and the space on the other side are all part of the same probability field, and the particle's wave function simply includes the possibility of being on the other side. Your monad, at its natural frequency, quantum tunnels through the barriers that your conditioned broadcast cannot cross. The barrier between you and the life that feels genuinely yours. The barrier between your current experience and the experience you can feel at the edge of your awareness, the one that is fuller and more vivid and more genuinely aligned with what you actually are. That barrier is not made of circumstances. It is made of frequency. It is a frequency mismatch between what you have been broadcasting and what that life resonates with. When your monad resets to its natural frequency, the mismatch dissolves. Not because the barrier is destroyed, but because at the quantum level, your wave function now includes the possibility of being on the other side. You tunnel through. You appear in the fuller version of your life, not by forcing your way there, not by overcoming obstacles one by one, but because your energy field is now resonating with it. Because what you radiate, reality assembles around. And when what you radiate is your original, undimmed, monad-level frequency, what assembles around you is the reality that was always meant to be yours. Now, I want to go deeper into what actually dims the monad, because understanding what has been muffling your deepest signal is the key to understanding why the reset is not just possible tonight, but inevitable. Why the natural frequency, once given the conditions to express, will always reassert itself. The monad does not dim from the outside. Nothing in the external world can touch the quantum core of your energy field. No circumstance, no relationship, no amount of difficulty or loss or disappointment can reach the monad itself. It is, as Leibniz said, windowless in this sense. It cannot be directly affected by what happens outside it, but it can be covered, layered over, muffled by the accumulated patterns in the outer layers of your aura, the emotional patterns, the belief structures, the physical tensions that have become chronic, until the signal from your monad, though still broadcasting, cannot penetrate through those layers with enough coherence to reach the quantum field around you. Think of it this way. The monad is a radio transmitter of extraordinary power. But if you wrap that transmitter in layer after layer of dense, absorbing material, if you surround it with interference patterns, with static, with signals that are not its own, the broadcast that emerges from all those layers is not the transmitter's true signal. It is a distorted, muffled, interference-laden version of it. And the quantum field, which responds to what it receives rather than what is at the source, responds to the distorted signal. What creates those interfering layers? Sustained emotional suppression. When emotions are not processed and released but held, compressed, stored in the body and the energy field, they create dense, incoherent patterns in the emotional layer of your aura. These patterns are not just psychologically significant. They are electromagnetically significant. They generate frequencies that interfere with the monad's broadcast, creating static in the signal that reaches the quantum field. Inherited belief structures. The beliefs you carry about your own worth, your own power, your own right to occupy space and radiate fully. These are not just thoughts. They are electromagnetic patterns in the mental layer of your aura, and they shape your broadcast in ways that can be far more powerful than your conscious intentions. You can intend abundance while broadcasting scarcity. You can intend love while broadcasting unworthiness. Because intention operates in the outer layers, while the deep belief structures that interfere with the monad's signal operate in the mental layer, much closer to the core. Chronic nervous system dysregulation. The heart generates the electromagnetic field that is your aura, and the heart's field is directly shaped by the state of the autonomic nervous system, a nervous system locked in chronic stress response, in the sympathetic dominance of fight or flight, generates a heart field that is measurably incoherent. The waves are irregular, the frequencies scattered, the signal fragmented. This is the physical, measurable mechanism by which chronic stress literally dims your aura. And then there is the subtlest and most pervasive dimmer of all, the forgetting, the simple, ordinary, completely understandable forgetting of what you are. The gradual accumulation of days and years in which you identified so completely with the outer layers, with your emotions, your thoughts, your circumstances, your roles and relationships and responsibilities, that the monad at the center of it all became not absent, but unattended, unfelt, forgotten, not because it disappeared, but because your attention was always somewhere else. This is the dimmer that the reset addresses most directly, because the monad reset is, at its most essential, an event of remembering. The quantum field creating conditions in which the monad's natural frequency becomes easier to feel, easier to recognize, easier to attend to. And attention, as we have already established, is itself a coherence-generating force. When you attend to your monad, you amplify its signal. When you remember what you are at the deepest level of your energy field, you begin to broadcast that remembering into the quantum field around you. And the quantum field responds. Now let me show you the practice that will anchor this reset in your energy field, not as a one-time event, but as a permanent shift in how you relate to your own broadcast. Because the monad reset tonight is a window, an extraordinary window. But what you do with what comes through that window determines how permanently the new frequency establishes itself. This practice has 3 movements. I want you to move through all 3 slowly, with full presence, not as a performance, as a genuine act of attending to your own energy field. The first movement is called the return. Close your eyes if you are able to do so safely. Take 3 full breaths, each one slower and deeper than the last. With each exhale, let your awareness travel inward, not to your thoughts, let those be. Not to your emotions, let those be. Inward, past the surface of your experience, past the familiar territory of your daily mental life, into the deeper quiet that exists beneath all of it. You will feel resistance. Your mind will offer you things to think about. Your attention will want to move outward, toward the familiar. This is normal. This is the outer layers of your aura, doing what they always do. Generating activity, generating signal, generating the constant low-level broadcast of ordinary consciousness. Let it all be there, and beneath it, find the still point. There is a place in the center of your awareness, not a physical location exactly, though it often feels associated with the center of the chest, where the activity of the outer layers becomes quiet, where something more fundamental becomes perceptible. It is subtle at first, a quality of presence that is different from the presence of thought or emotion. Simpler, more basic, more essentially you. This is the monad, not a concept, a felt reality, a point of pure being from which everything else in your energy field radiates. Stay there, even for 30 seconds, even for 10. Let your awareness rest at the quantum core of your own energy field. This is the return. This is the first movement of the practice. The second movement is called the recognition. From that still point, from that quiet center of your energy field, let yourself feel what is radiating. Not what you want to radiate, not what you think you should radiate. What is actually there at the deepest level when the noise of the outer layers becomes quiet. For most people, what they find at the monad level surprises them, because what is there is not what they expected. It is not the fear they carry in their emotional layer. It is not the self-doubt that lives in their mental layer. At the monad level, beneath all of that, what is radiating is something that can only be described as fundamental okayness, a quality of being that is complete in itself, that does not need to be fixed or improved or made different. That is, at its most basic, simply and completely what it is. This is your original frequency. This is the signal your monad has been broadcasting beneath all the interference. This is what the quantum field would hear if the outer layers were completely transparent. Feel it. Recognize it. Not as something you are discovering for the first time, but as something you are recognizing. Because you have always known this was there. You have always felt it at the edge of your awareness, in the quiet moments when the outer layers went still. You have always known that beneath everything, beneath the fear and the doubt and the conditioning and the forgetting, something in you was unaffected. Something in you was whole. That wholeness is your monad, and it is broadcasting right now. Feel it broadcasting. Feel the warmth of it radiating outward from that still point in the center of your energy field, moving through all the layers of your aura, reaching into the space around you. This is the recognition. You are recognizing your own original frequency. You are attending to your monad. And in that attention, the signal is becoming clearer, more coherent, more powerful. The third movement is called the declaration. From that still point, from that recognized wholeness, I want you to make a declaration. Not a wish, not a hope. A declaration. A statement of what is true at the quantum core of your energy field, spoken from the monad level rather than from the outer layers. You can speak it silently or aloud. Either way, let it come from that deep, still center you have just found. Let it rise from the monad and move outward through all the layers of your aura into the quantum field around you. The declaration is this: I am radiating my original frequency. I am broadcasting what I actually am. The quantum field receives my signal clearly. What I radiate, reality assembles around. My monad is reset. My light is on. My signal is clear. Feel those words, not as affirmations in the ordinary sense, not as statements you are trying to make true, but as descriptions of what is already true at the monad level. Your original frequency is already radiating. Your signal is already clear at the deepest layer. The reset is already happening. The declaration is not creating these things. It is acknowledging them. It is the outer layers of your awareness aligning with what the monad has always been broadcasting. And in that alignment, something extraordinary happens. The interference clears. Not all at once, not permanently in one moment, but measurably, genuinely, in a way you can feel in your energy field right now. The gap between what your monad is broadcasting and what actually reaches the quantum field narrows. The signal gets through more cleanly. The coherence increases. And a more coherent broadcast draws more coherent reality. This is the declaration. This is the third movement. And together, the three movements, return, recognition, declaration, constitute the practice that anchors the monad reset in your energy field. Do this practice tonight. Do it tomorrow morning. Do it whenever you feel the outer layers becoming noisy, whenever you feel the familiar dimness returning, whenever you lose touch with the sense of your own original frequency. Each time you do it, the pathway from the surface of your awareness to the monad becomes more established, more accessible, easier to find. Each time you return to that still point, it becomes more available. Each time you recognize your original frequency, it becomes more familiar. Each time you declare from that depth, the outer layers become more transparent, more aligned, more coherent in their broadcast. The reset is not a single event. It is a practice. Tonight is the window, the extraordinary moment when the quantum field itself creates conditions that make the reset easier. But the practice is how you keep the window open, how you live in the reset, rather than just visiting it. Now let me show you what changes in your daily life when your monad is broadcasting clearly. Because this is not only about energy field mechanics. This is about the texture of your actual lived experience, the quality of your relationships, the nature of what reaches you, and what you create in the world. When your monad is broadcasting at its natural frequency, when the deepest layer of your aura is clear and coherent, the first thing that changes is your relationship with your own inner experience. You stop being at the mercy of the outer layers. You stop being identified with the fear in your emotional layer or the limiting beliefs in your mental layer as if those were you. Because you have found the deeper layer, the monad, and you know that what is there is not fear and not limitation. It is wholeness. And from that knowing, the outer layers lose their power to define you. They are still there. The fear still arises. The doubts still come. But they arise in a field of something deeper that is not afraid and does not doubt. And that changes everything about how you relate to them. The second thing that changes is your relationship with other people. A coherent monad-level broadcast is felt by others in a way that is unmistakable, even if it is not consciously identified. The HeartMath Institute has demonstrated that the electromagnetic field of one person's heart affects the brain rhythms of people nearby. Your field is not contained within your skin. It reaches the people around you and influences them in measurable ways. When your monad is broadcasting clearly, when the field that reaches others carries your original frequency rather than a distorted, interference-laden version of it, people feel something in your presence that they may describe in different ways. A sense of safety, a quality of aliveness, a feeling that something in them can relax, can be seen, can come forward, that usually stays hidden. This is not charisma in the ordinary sense. This is quantum coherence radiating through your personal field and creating a resonance with the coherence that exists at the monad level in every person you encounter. You become someone who reminds people of their own light, not through what you say or do, but through what you radiate. This is perhaps the most profound gift of a clear monad broadcast, not what it draws to you, but what it activates in others. A coherent field is contagious in the best possible sense. It entrains incoherent fields toward coherence. Your clear broadcast becomes an invitation for others to remember their own original frequency. The third thing that changes is your relationship with time. This sounds abstract, but it is deeply practical. When your monad is broadcasting clearly, you begin to experience what might be called quantum synchronicity, with much greater frequency and regularity. The right information arriving at exactly the right moment. The person who has precisely what you need appearing in your life just as you need them. The opportunity that seems almost impossibly well-timed. The sense that reality is cooperating with you in a way that feels orchestrated. This is not magic. This is resonance. Your coherent monad-level broadcast is resonating with a wider band of the quantum field, which means a wider range of quantum possibilities are collapsing into your actual experience. The synchronicities are not accidents. They are the quantum field assembling reality around your signal. And a clear, coherent, monad-level signal draws a richer, more precisely aligned assembly of reality than an incoherent, interference-laden broadcast ever could. The fourth change is perhaps the most subtle and the most profound. When your monad is broadcasting clearly, you begin to feel a quality of rightness in your life that you may have been seeking for a very long time. Not the rightness of everything going perfectly. Circumstances will still be circumstances. Challenges will still arise. The world will still be the complex, unpredictable, often difficult place it is. But a rightness underneath all of that. A sense of being in your correct frequency. Of being at the most fundamental level, in alignment with what you actually are. Of radiating your true signal rather than a conditioned imitation of it. This is what Elara felt in the weeks after her monad reset. Not a perfect life, a right life, a life that felt genuinely hers. And that quality of rightness, that sense of being in your own correct frequency, is perhaps the most reliable indicator that your monad is broadcasting clearly, because it cannot be manufactured. It cannot be performed. It is the felt experience of the quantum core of your energy field operating as it was always meant to operate. Before we move into the integration of everything we have explored tonight, I want to address something that may be arising in your awareness. A question, or perhaps a resistance. Something that sounds like, "This is beautiful, but is it real? Is any of this actually happening? Or is it a compelling story that feels good to believe?" This is a fair question, and I want to answer it directly. The electromagnetic field generated by the human heart is real. It is measurable with magnetocardiography, with squid magnetometers, with the sensitive instruments that the HeartMath Institute and other research institutions have used to map and study it for decades. It extends beyond the body. It carries encoded information about the body's internal state. It interacts with the fields of other living systems. These are not metaphysical claims. They are published, peer-reviewed, reproducible scientific findings. The concept of quantum coherence is real. The phenomenon of quantum tunneling is real. The zero-point field is real. It was predicted by quantum theory and has been experimentally confirmed. The fact that quantum systems exist in superposition until observed, and that observation collapses probability waves into actualized states, is one of the most thoroughly established findings in all of physics. The claim that your personal energy field, your aura, functions according to quantum mechanical principles, that it broadcasts a signal that the quantum field responds to, that coherence in your personal field draws more coherent reality. This is the frontier. This is where established quantum science meets the ancient wisdom traditions that have known, in their own language, for thousands of years, that the human being is a radiating field of energy, whose quality of radiation shapes the quality of reality experienced. Is every detail of what I have described tonight proven to laboratory standards? No. Science is always catching up to what consciousness already knows. But the foundations are real. The electromagnetic field is real. The coherence phenomenon is real. The measurable effects of heart coherence on the body, the nervous system, and the fields of nearby people are real. And the felt experience, the quality of what happens in your own energy field when you attend to the monad, when you return to the still point and recognize your original frequency. That is perhaps the most immediate and undeniable evidence of all. Feel your field right now. Notice what is radiating. That is not imagination. That is your electromagnetic signature. That is real. Now I want to speak to something about this particular moment, about why tonight, specifically, carries the quality of a reset, rather than simply a continuation of ordinary time. Because the claim that the monad resets tonight requires some explanation. And that explanation points to something important about the nature of time itself in quantum terms. In classical physics, time is a uniform, continuous flow. One moment follows the next in an unbroken sequence, and all moments are qualitatively equivalent, just points on a timeline, equally distant from each other, equally available for whatever might happen in them. But this is not how time works in quantum terms, and it is not how time has been understood by the wisdom traditions that tracked the rhythms of the quantum field long before quantum physics gave us the language to describe what they were observing. In quantum field theory, the field itself has structure. It is not uniform. It has regions of higher and lower energy density, patterns, and rhythms that emerge from the interactions of all the fields and forces that compose it. And these patterns create what might be called qualitative differences in time. Moments that are not just sequentially different from other moments, but energetically different. Moments in which the background conditions of the quantum field create particular opportunities that other moments do not carry. The wisdom traditions called these moments by many names: kairos in Greek, the right moment, the opportune moment, the moment pregnant with possibility, sacred time, as distinct from ordinary chronological time, windows, thresholds, turning points, moments when the veil between what is and what could be becomes thin. The monad reset is one such moment. The conditions in the quantum field tonight, created by the convergence of rhythms and patterns that the ancient traditions tracked with extraordinary precision. And that quantum field theory is beginning to map in its own terms, create a window in which the monad's natural frequency can rise more easily than at ordinary moments, in which the interference patterns that muffle the monad's broadcast are temporarily weakened, in which the signal from the quantum core of your personal energy field can reach the surface of your experience with a clarity that is unusual. This is why tonight matters. Not because the monad cannot reset at other times. It can and does whenever the conditions are right. But because tonight the conditions are exceptionally right. The window is exceptionally wide. The opportunity is exceptionally available. And this is why you cannot go back. Not because the window closes and traps you in a new state, but because once you have felt your monad's natural frequency, once you have had the direct experience of what your energy field feels like when the deepest layer is broadcasting clearly, you cannot unfeel it. You cannot unknow it. The experience of your own original frequency becomes a reference point that your energy field will return to again and again, because it recognizes it as home. You may drift. The outer layers will still generate their patterns. The conditioning will still arise. There will be days when the familiar dimness returns, when the interference is louder than the signal, when you lose touch with the still point and the monad feels distant. This is normal. This is human. This is the ongoing practice of living consciously in an energy field that is constantly receiving input from a complex and often challenging world. But you will know the way back, because you have been there tonight. You have felt the return. You have recognized your original frequency. You have declared from the monad level. And that knowing, that felt, embodied, energetically anchored knowing of what your own deepest signal feels like, is something you carry with you now. It is in your energy field. It is part of your broadcast. This is what cannot be undone. Not the state, but the knowing of it. Not the reset as a permanent arrival, but the reset as a permanent reference. You know your own frequency now. You know the way home to your monad. And every time you return there, every time you practice the return and the recognition and the declaration, the pathway becomes more established. The signal becomes clearer. The coherence becomes more stable. This is the gift of tonight. Not a single transformation, a permanent orientation. A knowing of where your deepest signal lives and how to return to it. A relationship with your own monad that will only deepen from here. I want to pause here and invite you to share something, because the experience you are having right now, the quality of what is happening in your energy field as you receive this transmission, is not only yours. There are others receiving this same transmission in this same moment, or across the span of moments in which this reaches them. And they are having their own version of this experience, their own monad reset, their own return to the still point, their own recognition of their original frequency. And there is something extraordinary that happens when people who are consciously attending to their monad level broadcast come together, even virtually, even across distance and time. Their fields interact. Their coherent broadcasts amplify each other. The quantum phenomenon of entrainment, in which a stronger coherent field draws a weaker incoherent field toward coherence, operates between people just as it operates within a single person's energy field. A community of conscious radiators is not just a collection of individuals. It is a field, a collective broadcast, and a collective broadcast of monad-level coherence reaches the quantum field with a power that no individual broadcast, however clear, can fully match. So I want to ask you, what did you feel? In the practice, in the return, the recognition, the declaration, what happened in your energy field? What shifted? What became clearer? What surprised you? Have you ever felt your own radiance activate? A moment when your light seemed to fill a room. When someone was drawn to your energy, without either of you being able to explain why. When you felt the warmth of your own field as something almost tangible? Share it below. Your words, written from the monad level, carry your frequency into this collective field and contribute to the luminosity of everyone who reads them. And beyond the practice, what has been dimming your monad? What interference patterns have been layered over your original frequency? What have you been broadcasting without choosing to? And what do you feel now that you have touched the still point about what your natural signal actually is? Share this in the comments. Not because sharing it there makes it more real. It is already real. It is already happening in your energy field. But because speaking it, articulating the experience of your own energy field in words, is itself a coherence-generating act. It brings the monad-level experience into the outer layers of your awareness, integrating the reset across all layers of your aura, and it contributes your frequency to the collective field of everyone who encounters what you share. Your words, written from the monad level, carry your frequency. They radiate your signal. They become part of the collective broadcast of this community of conscious radiators. Now let us move into integration. Because the reset has happened, is happening right now in your energy field, and integration is how it becomes permanent, how the new frequency stabilizes, how the monad's natural signal becomes the dominant broadcast rather than a peak experience that fades. Integration is not a single act. It is an orientation, a way of moving through your life that keeps the monad's channel clear, that maintains the coherence you have established tonight, that allows the reset to deepen rather than merely visit. The first principle of integration is what I call monad-first attention. Throughout your day, as you move through your ordinary life, your work, your relationships, your responsibilities, your challenges, practice returning your attention briefly and regularly to the still point, to the monad, not abandoning the outer layers. You need them to function in the world, but touching the monad first, beginning each significant interaction, each decision, each creative act from the monad level before engaging the outer layers. This keeps the channel open. This keeps the deepest signal primary. In practice, this is simple. Before you respond to the difficult email, take one breath and touch the still point. Before you enter the challenging conversation, take one breath and feel the warmth in the center of your chest. Before you make the decision that matters, take one breath and return to the monad. It takes seconds, and it changes the quality of everything that follows, because you are now acting from your deepest signal rather than from the reactive patterns of the outer layers. The second principle of integration is frequency monitoring. Your emotional state is your most immediate feedback about the quality of your monad's broadcast. Not because emotions are the monad, they are the emotional layer, which is several layers removed from the monad itself. But because the emotional layer is sensitive to the monad's signal, when the monad is broadcasting clearly, the emotional layer tends toward coherent states, the genuine positive emotions that the HeartMath Institute has identified as generators of heart coherence, appreciation, love, peace, joy. When the monad's signal is being muffled by interference, the emotional layer tends toward incoherent states. anxiety, irritability, the low-level dissatisfaction that signals a disconnect from your original frequency. Use your emotional state as a compass, not to judge yourself when you find yourself in incoherent emotional states. Those states are information, not failures, but to notice when the monad's signal has become muffled and to practice the return. The three movements, return, recognition, declaration, are not only for formal practice sessions. They are available in any moment, in any circumstance, as a quick recalibration. 30 seconds of genuine attention to the still point is enough to begin clearing the channel. Enough to let the monad's natural frequency reassert itself through the interference. The third principle of integration is what I call conscious broadcasting. Throughout your day, practice the awareness that you are radiating, that your energy field is active, that your aura is broadcasting into the quantum field and drawing reality toward you at every moment. This awareness, this consciousness of your own broadcast, is not a burden. It is an empowerment. Because a conscious broadcast is always more coherent than an unconscious one, and a more coherent broadcast draws more coherent reality. In practice, this means occasionally pausing to ask, what am I broadcasting right now? Not as a self-critical audit, but as a genuine inquiry, a turning of attention toward your own energy field to feel what is radiating. And when what you find is not what you want to be broadcasting, when you catch yourself radiating anxiety or scarcity or the low-level static of distraction and disconnection, you have the tools to shift it. The return, the recognition, the declaration, the practice that anchors the reset. The fourth principle of integration is perhaps the most important. It is the principle of trust. Trust that the monad knows what it is doing. Trust that your original frequency, once broadcasting clearly, is drawing toward you exactly what is aligned with it. Trust that the reality assembling around your coherent signal is the right reality, not necessarily the reality your outer layers have planned or expected or demanded, but the reality that is genuinely aligned with what you actually are at the deepest level. This trust is not passive. It is an active, conscious choice to orient toward the monad's wisdom, rather than the outer layer's anxiety. It is the choice to let the deepest signal lead, to let the quantum field respond to your original frequency, to allow reality to assemble around what you actually are, rather than forcing it to conform to what your conditioned self thinks it should be. This trust is the hardest part of integration for most people, Because the outer layers, especially the mental layer, with its beliefs and expectations and plans, have been running the show for so long that trusting the monad feels like letting go of control. And in a sense, it is. But what you are letting go of is not real control. It is the illusion of control that comes from letting the conditioned broadcast run on autopilot. Real control, real creative power, is conscious, coherent, monad-level broadcasting, and that requires trusting the monad enough to let it lead. What you radiate, reality assembles around. When you trust your monad enough to let it broadcast clearly, what assembles around you is the reality that was always meant to be yours. The fuller version, the more vivid version, the version you have always felt at the edge of your awareness, just beyond the reach of your conditioned broadcast. That version is not far away. It is assembling around your signal right now, tonight, in the quantum field that surrounds you in every direction, reaching several feet beyond your body, carrying your original frequency into the world. Feel it. Feel your field right now. Feel what is radiating. That is not imagination. That is your monad, reset, broadcasting clearly, drawing toward you the reality that resonates with your deepest signal. Your light is on. It has always been on. Tonight, you know it. And here is what I want you to carry with you as you move forward from this moment. Not just the understanding, the quantum mechanics of the aura, the layers of the energy field, the physics of coherence and resonance, not just the practice, the return, the recognition, the declaration, but the felt knowing, the embodied certainty of what your own energy field feels like when the monad is broadcasting clearly. The warmth in the center of your chest, the sense of field extending outward, the quality of rightness that comes from being in your own correct frequency. That knowing is now part of your energy field. It is encoded in your monad's broadcast. It will be there when you wake tomorrow morning. It will be there in the middle of the difficult day when the interference is loud and the still point seems far away. It will be there in the quiet moments when you remember to look, to feel, to return. Your monad is reset. Your original frequency is active. The quantum field is receiving your signal clearly. Reality is assembling around what you actually are. You cannot go back. Not because something has been taken from you, because something has been returned to you. The something that was always yours. The the frequency that was yours before anything was layered on top of it. The signal that your monad has been broadcasting quietly and persistently from beneath the interference for your entire life. You are a radiating field of quantum energy. You have always been. But now you know it. Now the broadcast is conscious. And a conscious broadcast, a monad-level, coherent, original frequency broadcast, is infinitely more powerful than an unconscious one. This is not the beginning of your radiance. Your radiance began the moment you came into being. This is the beginning of your conscious radiance. The moment you turned toward your own light and saw it clearly. The moment the monad reset and the signal cleared and the quantum field began receiving, with full coherence, what you actually are. Shine. Not because you should, not because it is your duty or your obligation or your spiritual assignment. Shine because that is what you are. Shine because the monad at the center of your energy field is a broadcast of original frequency that the world needs to receive. Shine because what you radiate, reality assembles around. And the reality that assembles around your clear, coherent, monad-level signal is not just better for you. It is better for everyone your field touches, for everyone who feels the warmth of your aura and remembers, without knowing why, that their own light is on. Your aura is active. Your monad is reset. Your signal is clear. Welcome to your own light. The practices and principles from tonight's transmission are yours to return to whenever you need them. The return to the still point. The recognition of your original frequency. The declaration from the monad level. These three movements are your anchor, your way home, your practice of conscious radiance. If this transmission reached something real in you, consider returning to it in a quiet moment, early morning before the day begins, or just before sleep, when your field is most still and most receptive. That is when the three movements land deepest, when the monad signal rises most clearly through the quiet. And if someone in your life is dimming, if someone you love has forgotten their own frequency, share this with them. When you place this transmission in the hands of another person, you are not just sending a video. You are sending a ripple. Their field will respond to it the way yours did. And as their monad stirs, it will strengthen the resonance between you. Two coherent fields in proximity amplify each other. Sharing this is itself an act of conscious radiance, contributing to the collective luminosity of every field it touches. And if you felt something shift tonight, if something in your energy field moved, clarified, expanded, or settled into a quality of rightness that you want to understand more deeply, then continue with us. There is more to explore about your personal energy field, more layers of your aura to illuminate, more of what you have been broadcasting unconsciously to bring into the light of conscious radiance, more of the quantum mechanics of your personal energy field to understand and embody. Because your monad is not just reset. It is awake. It is broadcasting. And what it is broadcasting is extraordinary. You have been glowing this whole time. Now you know it. Now you get to choose it. Now you get to live from it. Your light is on. Your signal is clear. Your monad is broadcasting your original frequency into the quantum field, and the quantum field is responding. What you radiate, reality assembles around. Radiate consciously. Radiate fully. Radiate from the monad level, from the still point, from the deepest and most original signal you carry. That is what you are. That is what you have always been. And now you cannot go back.